Hi everyone, this video demonstration is the next in our series, QuickBooks Online Getting Started, Working with Vendors. Let's talk about vendors. You need to add your vendors so that you can use them when entering purchase orders, bills, checks, and expenses, along with keeping track of job costs for your customers. In this demonstration, we will go through how to set up vendor preferences, how to add a new vendor, how to import a batch of vendors, how to manage your vendors, how to edit a vendor, how to make a vendor inactive, how to merge vendors, and lastly, how to add a contractor. Let's get started by setting up your vendor preferences. Go to your gear icon and choose Account and Settings. Choose Expenses. Do you need to track the profitability of your jobs by customer or project? In the Bills and Expenses section, you can choose how you want to track your information. Click on the pencil icon to get started. In my opinion, I don't know why you wouldn't use this feature. This is an integral part of QuickBooks keeping track of your information. Choose Add a Product Service Table on Expense and Purchase Forms so you can itemize products and services. If you want to assign tags on expense and purchase orders for reporting purposes, make sure this option is turned on. To track expenses and item by customer, you will create a customer column on your expense and purchase forms so you can track expenses and items by customer. The next option is to make expenses and items billable. This feature allows you to use one or more income accounts to track billable expenses and items on your sales forms. When you enable this option, you can choose to mark up your expenses and items at a default rate. You can also choose to track billable expenses as income, and if you need, to charge sales tax. Lastly, you can choose your default bill payment terms. I'll choose net 15 and save. If you are going to use purchase orders, make sure this option is turned on. If you are going to email purchase orders to your vendors, you can customize your template by clicking into Messages and making any changes as needed. Now let's move on to add a new vendor. There are two ways to create a vendor in your software. In the first example, we will talk about how to set up one individual vendor. A benefit of this is so that you can see what fields are available for each vendor if you decide to batch import. If you are in the Accountant view, go to Expenses from the left toolbar and choose Expenses. Next, select Vendors. If you are in the Business view, select Sales and Expenses. Next, select Vendors under the Expenses header. Then choose New Vendor. I'm going to bring up CU Electric and go through each field with you. First, enter your vendor's company name. Then enter the contact person's title and name to any field that applies. Then choose a display name. Again, the display name is a required field. It is a unique name that you use to search for your vendor's information. It can even be an account number. Add your own display name or choose the display name that you want to quickly identify them and their history. Next, enter your contact's email address. Enter their company phone, mobile, and fax number. Enter any other phone numbers and vendor's website if applicable. Enter the name you want to print on your check to that vendor. In the address section, enter their billing address. In the Notes and Attachments section, add any notes pertaining to this vendor along with any attachments. In the Additional Information section, enter their tax ID number and check mark if you will track payments so that you can send them a 1099 for tax reporting purposes. You can enter an hourly billing rate underneath the expense rates header if they are a subcontractor and you will track their time, or to enter a default rate with the number of hours worked on a project. In the Payments section, enter your default terms and account number associated with their vendor account. In the Accounting section, choose their default category such as utility expense or subcontractor expense, whichever applies to the work they will be doing. You can leave this field blank. You can enter an opening balance and as of date if this is a new vendor. Keep in mind that once you save the vendor information, you can't go back in and enter a beginning balance afterwards. The last section is Custom Fields. You can enter information in the current fields listed, and you can add a custom field. Once you complete your vendor setup form, click Save. The second way to create vendors is to import the vendor list in batch entry. I will go through the steps to show how to successfully import multiple vendors at one time. First, select the gear icon at the top right of your web page. Choose Import Data located in the Tools section of the dashboard. Select Vendors. A few things to keep in mind is to keep your vendors on one sheet and CSV or Excel file. The top row of the file must contain the header title for each column of information so that QuickBooks can match the columns with your file. The vendor name is the only field that is required, but I feel like you may want to have more information to make it worth your time. I'm going to show you the sample template that QuickBooks provides. You can use this template to add your own information. Just delete the content under the header row. As we talked about before, to make sure we meet the requirements, you are using one file on one sheet. You can import the contact name, company name, email address, phone, mobile, or fax machine number, website address, billing address, opening balance and date if needed, and tax ID number if you need to send out a 1099 at the end of the year. You may have noticed that the fields that they don't include are if any notes and attachments, the checkbox to track payments for 1099, billing rate, payment terms, and account number, default expense category, and custom fields. Once you are finished, save your file. Next, choose your file that the vendor import is located. Our file is a saved CSV file. You can also choose a file saved as a Google Sheet. Next, you match the QuickBooks Online fields with the fields from your CSV or Excel spreadsheet. Click Next. This screen will alert you of anything that has an error with a red box showing the error and the error message. Here it shows the date is the incorrect format. Go back to the sheet and fix any errors and save. A screen will occur letting you know how many vendors were imported successfully. I think you can see how easy it is to batch import multiple vendors at once. Not only does QuickBooks Vendor Batch Import make it easy, but also saves you time to do the things you'd rather do than manually entering each vendor separately. QuickBooks Online has a place to manage your vendors called the Vendor Center. The Vendor Center is the hub for cost transactions within QBO. If you are in the Accountant view, go to Expenses from the left sidebar, then the Vendors tab at the top. If you are in the Business view, select Sales and Expenses. Next, select Vendors under the Expenses header. Here we will view open and overdue bills, maintain vendor information, and view historical transactions. The bar at the top of the screen is called a money bar. Click on the colored boxes to filter the vendor list to see who has open purchase orders, overdue bills, open bills, and expenses paid in the last 30 days. To view the complete list of transactions again, click the blue clear filter View All link. To search for a vendor, use the box above the grid. Try searching by company name, contact name, and phone number. You can also choose which information fields show in the grid. Click on the baby gear at the top right of the grid, as opposed to the big main gear with QBO's tools, to add and remove columns. Check Include Inactive to view vendors you previously inactivated. Choose the number of rows to view on each page. To email or inactivate many vendors at once, checkmark the vendors and select Batch Actions to email or inactivate. The other two buttons allow you to print your vendor list and export it to PDF or Excel. Click the drop-down arrow in the Action column to create bills, create expenses, write a check, create a purchase order, or make the vendor inactive. You can choose to prepare 1099s, write checks, or order checks from the drop-down arrow. Click the green New Vendor button or select drop-down arrow and select Import Vendors to take you directly to the Import Vendor screen. Next, click on a vendor from the list in the Vendor Center. Use the bar arrow to search by name or company. Sort by name or open balance. You can collapse the list by clicking the bar arrow icon. Click the symbol icon to add a new vendor. Each vendor has Transaction List and Vendor Details tabs containing transaction history and vendor information. You can choose to print or export transaction history to Excel. Select Transaction, then click the drop-down arrow for Batch Actions to print or recategorize transactions. Click the drop-down arrow for Filter to sort by type and date. Click the gear icon to select columns to display. Click on the green New Transaction button to create a time activity, batch transactions, bill, expense, check, purchase order, vendor credit, or to pay down a credit card. To edit your vendor's information, click on the vendor in the Vendor Center, that you wish to edit. Click the Edit button to open the customer information window. Make any changes, then save once finished. Making a vendor inactive does not remove them from the system. You will have the option to view inactive vendors in the Vendor Center. Maintaining your vendor list is very useful and cuts down on the time searching for vendors while entering transactions. From the Vendor Center, click the vendor you would like to make inactive, click Edit, click the Make Inactive button. If you have the same vendor spelled differently and need the name and transaction history merged into one vendor name, follow these steps. Edit the vendor you intend to keep. Copy the vendor's name and then click Cancel. Edit the vendor you intend to merge and paste to replace the vendor's name with the correct name. Click Save. A Please Confirm warning box will appear. Click Yes to confirm. The old vendor will be removed from the list and remain in an inactive status. Keep in mind that the merge process cannot be undone. Now let's talk about working with contractors. 1099 workers are independent contractors who provide a service. In QuickBooks Online, there is a Contractors page to set up, create checks, view transaction history, and manage your contractors. If you are in the Accountant view, go to Payroll from the left sidebar, then the Contractors tab. If you are in the Business view from the left sidebar, select Payroll. Next, select Contractors under the Payroll header. To view contractor payment information or print a report for a specific time frame, click on View All Contractor Payments in blue. Choose your time frame for the payment report. Customize the columns by choosing what contractors to include on your report and what columns to include. Once customized, select Run Report. Choose the Share drop-down arrow to export to Excel or print or save to PDF. Once done with your report, choose the blue Back button to take us back to the Contractors page. Enter your contractor's name to search for a specific contractor. You can view the last payment sent by clicking the blue View Last Payment or choosing to write a check, create expense, or create a bill. Choose the Active button to select whether to view active, inactive, or all contractors. Choose Prepare 1099s for the end of the year tax reporting and the ability to e-file with the IRS. E-deliver 1099s to your contractors, which are viewable in a free Intuit account. Then Intuit will print and mail copies of the 1099 to your contractors. Click Add a Contractor button to enter your new contractor's name and email address, which both are required. You can choose whether to email this contractor to complete their profile. They will get their own account to safely share their personal details. To pay multiple contractors on a specific pay date, select the green Pay Contractors button. Choose your bank account that the payments will be deducted from. choose which contractors to pay, the pay method, if you also set up direct deposit, along with the location if needed. Enter any other details such as account name, description of the work done, which customer the work was performed for, and the class the payment is assigned to. Finally, enter the amount to pay. Click Preview Contractors Pay. The contractor selected will show with the amounts to pay each contractor and the total to be deducted from your checking account. If everything looks good, submit contractor pay. That concludes our tutorial on working with vendors within QuickBooks Online. The next video in our series is how to set up, import, and manage your customer information.